Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where women from every walk of life come together to break barriers, embrace their power, and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Vicki McDougall, and each week we explore inspiring stories, actionable strategies, and empowering conversations to help you step into your confidence, amplify your voice, and create a life without limits. No matter where you are on your journey, this is your space to grow, thrive, and become unstoppable. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Today, I have a special guest with me, and I really wanted to share his journey, his thoughts, his feelings on what has transpired in his life and the changes that he's really worked on and the way he sees life. It was just, we met, and I was drawn to the way of his being, and I would like for you to meet him and really hear where he comes from. So welcome, Pratiqk, to The Art of Being Unstoppable. I am so happy to have you join us here today.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I really am grateful to be on the platform, to share my journey, to share my experience, and helping with my mission to let people know that there is completely different experience available right there. So thank you.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you here. We talked the last time and we had a little bit of a scheduling issue back and forth, and then we finally got in today, and I was like, okay, we can't wait this any longer. This has to happen today. So here we are, and I'm so happy to have you. So you are coming from London, England, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Beautiful London. I've never been, and it's definitely somewhere I've love to visit. Now I have a reason to go. I have someone I could meet there. Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. Anytime you're welcome.
Thank you very much. So, what really struck me was your story. And if you could share a little bit about yourself with our listeners. Typically, my podcast, I talk to a lot of women. And not because I don't talk to men, but because it just seems to be where I lead from. But with you talking to me about your book and about how you see things, I believe that this is something that everyone needs to hear. And it sounds like it's sounds really hard, but really what we had just talked about before we started pressing record was the simplicity of it. And I think that everyone thinks that when we grow and change, it has to be difficult. There has to be, we don't give ourselves any grace, and we have all these check boxes that we have to do. And it's not that at all.
I completely agree. Yeah,
so I would love for you to share a little bit about your story with us.
Sure. So I was born and brought up in India. I moved to UK when I was 18 years old. I studied accountancy. I worked in a practice for accounting. And after 3 to 5 years, I decided that I would like to have my own business in accounting and business consulting. But I was waiting to save some money, to be honest, to pay my bills for at least 3 to 6 months. So then when I don't have a permanent income, I can have 6 months to build that income. And it took me 8 years to really have my own business. And let me say something. It's not because I finally managed to save 6 months of expenditure. It's because there was something else. And what happened is in 2017, I was diagnosed with tuberculosis and I was in bed. Now, my ex-wife wasn't working at that time because we decided mutually that she would look after the daughters and we do not want to hire a nanny. So she can give more of her time as a mom, and that would give better upbringing to the kids. So we both agreed, and that's what we decided. So I was the only breadwinner, and whoever I talked to, I had a really good salary. So I don't complain that I didn't have enough income, but I think it was my passion to do the business the way I wanted. So I have my ways to help people. I have my ways to help people achieving their dream through their business and achieving their success without becoming too much commercial. Because, accountants, you got to do charge out rate. And even if you talk to the client for half an hour, you must bill. I didn't want to be restricted because if I'm there to help, I don't look at how much I was earning. I just want to help. That has been my pure intention. So because of these restrictions, I really wanted to do my own business. So in tuberculosis, I was in the I was in a bed for 3 months because it was spinal. The infection was in my spine. And over the years, even my relationship was not serving me the way I would expect. And maybe my ex-partner, would also have the same views on that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I mean, now I understand what was happening, which I'll explain later. But at that time, in my head, she doesn't understand me. And in her mind, I don't understand her. And we
Mm-hmm.
both are not giving each other what we want. But now that we're married and we come from a family where the marriage is sacred ceremony and it ties
Mm-hmm.
you for 7 lifetimes, and with all that, training, I should say, we wanted to keep it like that. So it doesn't, and we also learned that there are a lot of sacrifices to be made, a lot of compromises to be made to sustain a marriage. And we both followed that to a certain extent. And there were a lot of things I wanted to do which I couldn't do because of all these fears. And when you're not happy at home, you just tell yourself, why do you want to create wealth? Why do you want to be successful? What's the point of it? Right? And in that tuberculosis, I was there and I had this one thought: what if I passed away in this illness? What would happen to the reasons and the people because of whom I'm not taking certain decisions?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was really not much, because everyone's life goes on and it should go on. It's not a wrong thing. If I were to die in that moment, yes, my parents would be sad, devastated, and they probably would not come out of that grief for so long. But the life doesn't stop. The life
Right.
will go on. Everyone's life will go on. So then I was asking question to myself, like, what is it really that is stopping me? Because if I could do whatever I wanted, and because I'm dead, I'm not responsible to anybody, I can be alive and fight for it. And I don't have to listen to anybody because I'll prove that I'm right. That's something came from inside of me. And funny enough, around that time on Facebook, I came across some Indian motivational speaker, and probably he came at the right time, and I was motivated. I'm like, this is so true. I must do it. There's one thing I realized much later: the quality I was given naturally is, if I learn something, I would really go and experiment it as far as it's possible. I mean, unless I learn about some chemicals and go to the laboratory, I wouldn't have done that. But there is something I'm learning and I can do it with the resources I have available, I will definitely try and experience that technique or whatever I'm learning. So I started
So
applying those positive things. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, I just wanted to say, so with tuberculosis, you're in bed for 3 months. Your relationship is already rocky, right? You
Uh-huh.
have children. And you can't do anything. So as the breadwinner, you were the one that would go to work every day, come home, like painting this picture, because I'm a visual person. So as you're speaking to me, I'm seeing this happening, and I'm seeing a man who is the breadwinner, who goes out of the house every day, who now cannot. And for 3 months, you're in a bed and you can't leave, and you're ill,
Yeah.
and you're thinking about, what if I was to die tomorrow? Like, that is, we do think when I've had cancer, and when we go through an illness, that is one of the things that we think of.
Yeah.
But like most,
And
and some of, like many of my guests, you made a choice at that time. And that's what I'm hearing. And that's what makes me really stop and go, okay, you made a choice when you came across that. There's no coincidences, and you know that. So when you
oh
came
yeah,
across that on Facebook, you saw something and you were like, no, I'm doing this. I'm not down. This isn't my last days.
yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. And I think that positive thinking, after my thought process with myself, started making me free from the fears I was carrying.
Hmm.
So, this is a strange thing. And when you mentioned this, I haven't spoken about this particular part of my journey. So I was diagnosed with tuberculosis in January, but I had this pain started around August, September, a year before. So originally, the doctor said you've got some stiff muscles because you sit and work on a computer all day. And I had some physio sessions. And then the pain traveled from the back to the front. And my doctor said you should go and do ultrasound because it might be kidney stone because that travels. So I remember it was 6th of December 2016. I was in an A&E and they said, "Oh, we'll do CT scan to find the stone." And they came back and asked me a question like, "Do you know if your kidney was removed since your childhood?" So in that moment, I was on my own because my ex-wife and kids were at home because I didn't know how long it was going to take and what was the waiting time. So I'm like, I'm okay, I can walk. And I'm like, inside my head, there was a laugh because I'm laughing like they went, I asked them to find a stone and they can't find kidney. So
Yeah.
I found it a bit funny to start with. And I'm like, what? You can't find kidney? I'm like, that must be something. I'm like, I don't remember my kidney being removed, but the fact that you can't find it, it's not there since I was born. And then I just didn't know because I didn't know how to react to it. Should I be happy? Should I be worried? Should I be scared? Should I be screaming? I didn't know because
Yeah.
that's something happened for the very first time. So they sent me home. I said, so because there is no kidney, there is no stone, so go home. And then I reached home and I realized, like, but what about the pain? Because I didn't really come for the stone. I actually came for the pain. But then I wasn't prepared for this 5-hour wait again. So I went back to GP. But then the symptoms gone worse. And then I realized that the pain was because of this spinal infection. But because I was already in the process of finding out why the pain is, the doctors were able to diagnose me at a very early stage of tuberculosis. Although it got to a point where I couldn't stand for more than 5 to 10 seconds. I couldn't even brush my teeth in one
Oh
go.
my goodness.
So I was there, and my employer at that time I wasn't having good relationship with them purely because I had to take a lot of time off for these appointments.
Yeah.
So they were kind of wanted me to leave and resign. And I actually worked from home from my laptop lying or just get up, but don't stand. And I was working for those 3 months because I had no choice. So, but this is something this is first time I'm sharing on this platform, with you because the conversations never went to that stage. So from that, I felt like this is the worst situation you can ever be in, and there can never be anything worse than this. Now, only good things can happen. So that motivation, and every motivational video I was listening to, there was some reference to the books. So I started buying those books. This is only 10% of my total collection, but you can see there are more at the house. And my very first book was Think and Grow Rich, then The Power of Subconscious Mind, Magic of Thinking Big, and it just started. Then I got initiated with the Kriya Yoga. Then I got initiated with inner engineering of Sadhguru. Then I did some psychedelic experiences in Peru. I wanted to find the answers because I'm not saying from the moment I left my work and I started my business, things started to grow amazingly. It wasn't that. It just changed, but the challenges of the businesses were still there.
Yeah.
The challenges of marriage was still there. But now I was able to address the issue rather than avoiding it. Then, ultimately we got separated and I got divorced. And now I'm in a different relationship. And what we really kind of learned, and sorry, before I share that, 4 years ago, I came across Marisa Peer's rapid transformational therapy. And that's what I learned, that whatever we are experiencing in our life, it's a belief which was formed in our childhood.
Yeah.
So I would hypnotize people, who are suffering from anger, anxiety, stress, burnout, self-doubts, weight loss. And everyone I found something which was quite identical because whatever they were experiencing today, there was something happened in their childhood where their subconscious perceived that event in a certain way, which created the belief for them to react with that emotional reaction. So whether it's
Yep.
anger, whether creating doubts. So, to give you an example, if somebody was suffering with self-doubt, if they went into their childhood, there was something happening around them, their parents were overprotective. So when the child is wanting to do something by himself, the parents would not let him do it. Like, oh, you can't do it, we will do it. You can't do it, you will do it. So he
Yeah.
keeps listening that I can't do it, I can't do it. So you program yourself that you're not enough.
Yeah.
So you always have self-doubt because that's what created that. Now parents didn't really want that. So I'm not blaming the parents here.
Oh,
The
no. And
parents
there
want
is
to
no
give
blame.
more.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the
There is
parents
no
wanted
blame.
to.
And I think that I'd like to just to preface that by saying a lot of the times when we get to a place like that, right, where we don't understand and we don't know why, and when we do go back, that the blame is something that is just we just do, right? That's just something that human nature, we just say, well, this if
Absolutely.
this hadn't
Absolutely.
happened, I wouldn't be this way. But in all actuality, we all only do the best we can at where we're at. Our parents didn't know, just like you
Absolutely.
speaking earlier about you staying married, because that's a sacred thing. That's what you
Yeah.
were, that was what you do. And for you to break that and to change, because being fulfilled and happy is the most important thing in your life, is health and happiness,
Absolutely.
right? And joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I realized, so what I was really doing with the clients is help them to identify themselves, how they learn to experience these emotions, and then interrupt those patterns. So there is a script, there are techniques, and then there is a
Yeah.
transformation script, which is mainly positive affirmations that I'm enough, I'm complete, I'm capable. Because one of
Yeah.
the things I also learned is the subconscious mind does not have time and space. So what you perceived as reality as a childhood, when you grow, those patterns do not grow with you. They stay as you are. So if you tried doing something as a child and you couldn't do it because you were not strong enough, your subconscious will not now automatically think that now you're grown and you're much stronger, you can do that. It would still assume that I won't be able to do it. And that's why, many
Really?
people who have, yeah,
Really? I never knew
yes,
that.
yeah. And there are people who are grown up and they have a fear of water or fear of height, but that's something they developed in their childhood. And the best way to experience it, like when you meditate and when you really go into meditation or just go in a relaxed state, you won't realize the time. So, I mean, in reality, time doesn't exist. I mean, that's how I experience it right now, because time means change. So if you were
Mhm.
occupied doing something which is interesting, you won't realize the time. The 10 minutes or 1 hour can go by. But if you were to wait for a bus and nothing is moving around, you're standing on a quiet road, that 1 minute would really feel so long. So experience of time is associated with a change. So there is no time. Time is an illusion, as they say. So coming back to this, so when I started writing the book, it was more about how we experience negative emotions and how we were conditioned in our childhood to experience those things and how you can reprogram your mind. And there were some self-help techniques where you can do it by yourself and it will create permanent result. So it's not temporary thing, it's permanent change. And you can, you know, do the positive thing. And what happened, this is something that was part of my journey. So the book was actually aimed for people, but then there was also something for me to learn. So every time I finish a chapter, I would forget that I'm the author and I would become the third party who's absolutely against what this guy is writing and criticizes as much as I can. So I would do that for every chapter, and then some of the time it's okay. Some of the time I would want to add more explanation just because how I criticize, now I want to add those things. So one of the day, and I normally do this criticism in the middle of the night when everything is quiet, and I read the
Mhm.
chapter and I go into my meditative state and then trying to see what is coming, and then I'll fire it out. Okay. So this particular day, I was thinking like, okay, so what we learned in our childhood was a negative beliefs, which is giving us negative emotional experiences. With this therapy or this method, we are transforming to positive one. So we are learning positive experiences to create positive beliefs. But then the both experiences are learned experiences. Where is me?
Right.
And in that moment, I was breathless. I couldn't breathe. I was so scared just thinking about it. Because in that one moment, what I used to call Pratiqk or myself just disappeared. And I didn't know where I belong. So that fear of losing my identity was so scary that I couldn't sleep, because if I shut my eyes, I would go to that state because I was meditating. So I'm feeling the state. So it took me to the state where there was no learning and it was just dark. And I didn't know how to interpret that, because I despite reading so many books, listening to lots of podcasts and all of it, nothing described this experience.
Wow.
And then in 2 weeks' time, over 2 weeks, I was doing a little bit of that state and see this life from this state. And what I realized is when I was born, this state was there.
Mm-hmm.
When I didn't understand a language, when I didn't understand a word, when I didn't identify or learned about any objects, this state was there. When I was really happy, excited, enjoying, this part was there observing. I'm experiencing the excitement, the happiness. When I was sad, I was in tears. I was in bed around my tuberculosis and how I used to feel. This part was there watching me experiencing this. And then something started to shift, because what I realized is when we were born, this state actually gave me the feeling of wholeness, feeling of completeness. I didn't really want anything when I was at that state. So when I bring my awareness to this state, I ask a question, what do I really want? And it says nothing. I have everything I can ever want. I'm complete. I'm whole. And then when I saw how the conditioning created some sort of lack in me, how conditioning told me that there is something out there which you need to get to feel fulfillment, and how I was running for money, running for success, running for love and relationship to feel fulfilled, but I never achieved it. No matter how much successful my business was, my state was same as when I came to UK.
That's right. It didn't come from out there.
Absolutely.
It didn't come from out there. Yes.
Absolutely. And it was always
I
there.
have goosebumps. I have goosebumps when you're talking about this, because I'm like, I don't know if it's just the way you have explained it, but that innocence, that curiosity and innocence of that child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the truth is, because I can realize what gives us the goosebumps is the state in me, which is sharing this experience, is touching the state in you. And when that two states are communicating, I think that's what really gives us goosebumps, which we cannot explain why they are coming.
Yes.
And everyone's real me is identical. The only thing makes us different to each other is our conditioning, where we were born, where we grew up, how our parents' conditioning was, how our school was, our classmates, our teachers, what we used to watch in TV, when we do for social gathering, what subjects we were talking about, how people are talking about other people, how they are judging other people. And somehow we learn that the actions which are appreciated or praised, we want to have become that person. That's how we're going to behave. And the things which are criticized or punished, we don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And that way, we will earn respect, we will earn status. We learned that subconsciously. And somehow we identified ourselves that this is Pratiqk. But that was learned Pratiqk, a learned version of it. The real Pratiqk was there when he was born. So when we start living life from that, now, we were talking, you mentioned earlier about blaming. Now, blaming is actually a mechanism to feel good, because if something wrong has happened, we are also conditioned to
Yep.
put someone else responsible, because that's easy. That's
Yeah.
easy, right? Or you did
Oh,
that to
it's
me.
so much easier.
You didn't do that. That's easy.
That's right. It
It's a
wasn't me. It
coping
was that
mechanism.
person. It's always easier to point the finger to someone else than to own it and to actually sit with it. Like you said, to sit with it.
Exactly.
Like,
So
wow.
again, I don't say blaming is wrong, because that's something we learned. Now,
Yeah.
if we realize that blaming doesn't really change my situation,
Uh-uh.
then I will say, let me see what else I can do. And that's the time we start digging deeper. So there is a chapter in my book which talks about the blame. So this is not about blaming others. We need to take responsibility for our own happiness. So
Mhm.
when we do that, the real journey starts. And I always say that you got to be absolutely honest with one person, and that's yourself.
That's right. Yes.
And when we do that,
Yes.
we become open to whatever comes out. And when we go deeper into any problems we have, I can assure that it will end with conditioning. So if I feel disappointed, if my partner's cheating on me or whatever I'm experiencing, somewhere it is because of the conditioning. And there is one foundation thing which conditioning creates is a lack. And it kind of makes sense, because if we don't have lack, we don't have desire to go out and do things. So that's,
Right.
that's right. I understand why there was conditioning and why it operates from lack. Because we just learned to think from the animals, or the Homo sapiens became humans, and we started to think, and we've developed our senses, and we started interpreting the events around us. So conditioning played a major role and very important role to interpret those experiences, because that conditioning gave language. That conditioning created those experiences. If we didn't have
Mhm.
conditioning, we would be just like
Yep.
cows and buffaloes and other animals. So we're
Yep.
not seeing that as a wrong thing. It was a part of our evolution process. But because that lack operated from that scarcity and safety and survival, we wanted to build more luxury or more survival mechanisms. So we want to earn money, we want to save money, not just for our lifetime or future, or kids' future, or our 5 generations. We want to buy assets, then we trying to compare with each other because we want to be better than others.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
overall, what happened is we became two people. One, we pretend the way the world expects us to be. When people are watching, we are different. And when no one's watching, we are different. That's when we talk about our own insecurities, we talk about our failures, we talk about our weaknesses, which we are not comfortable sharing openly with our own friends or our own partners, even,
Right.
because we feel there is insecurity there. And all these experiences we learned from someone. We learned from an
Mhm.
event. We learned from somebody talking. Even a movie scene can
Yep.
influence our
Mhm.
nervous system.
Yeah. So when you said we are two people, right? There's the person that we are for the world, and then there's the person we are when we're alone. I think for me, that is where I am at in a transition right now in my life so strongly, because I'm okay. I had a dream, and I want to tell you this because this came up for me so strong, and maybe that's why all of this came up. But I walked into a place, and it was all of my friends were there, and they were all there, and I wasn't invited. And but I mean, people that I haven't seen in years, like everyone that you can imagine was in this room. And I thought, that was really nice. No one invited me. But I was there. So obviously, but was that which version of me was that? And I've been questioning that because of the growth that I'm going through. Is that where I'm coming to now? Like this, the real version, that person that I'm alone with, that person that is discovering without all of the conditioning and all of the everything else that we've gone through in our lives. is that what you're coming back to? Because I say that all the time, coming back to you, that home, that soul, that person that's inside you. Like
So,
it's so, like, how does, like, yeah, help me with that, because I mean, this is where I'm at right now, is this transition. So for you to talk like this, like, honestly, I have goosebumps like all over my body. I'm listening to you and I'm like, you are talking to me like this was the exact day that we were supposed to meet. And I feel
absolutely.
that. Oh,
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. So anything doesn't happen is for a really good reason.
that's
And
right.
I think, today was a time. So I don't particularly have much experience about dreams. Or what my experience has been is we learn to suppress our desires because what we perceived as a society, what we perceived as a world, we feel we will be judged. I think the biggest fear, bigger than fear of death, is fear of being judged. So
Hmm.
that is why we are not comfortable sharing our weaknesses, sharing our failures, right?
Yeah.
Because you just think that they won't give you the same respect as before. They
Hmm.
won't give you that value, what you deserve. And hence, see, these two personalities which I mentioned is part of conditioning. Because
Yeah.
A, you want to be successful and you want to show your success, and B, you know yourself that you're not. So, we go to holidays and we don't know whether we are actually happy or not, but we do put pictures and show it on social media.
Hmm.
Before, people used to meet in person quite a lot. So I remember
Hmm.
every time I went for parents get together in school, and all they talk about holidays and what they did and how much they drank and all sorts of things. So they want to show that they've done something amazing, which is not wrong, which is absolutely fine. Because that way they want to feel fulfilled. They want to feel that they are doing something better. Because I've learned one thing, that everybody, whatever they do, whatever they speak, they truly want to feel good inside.
Yeah.
That is
Yep.
everyone's intention. So if that turns out to be blaming others, is the way how we see it. If it turns out that this person's angry, we can perceive it that way. But that person doesn't really want to get anger out. He wants to feel good inside.
Hmm.
They want to feel that calmness. And any event that is disturbing that calmness, they want to get it out. And they will get out in the way they learn to get out. So some
Hmm.
people can be sad and crying and, become victim of the situation,
Yep.
where
Yep.
others can get angry and be more intimidating to get that expression out, those emotions out.
Yeah. Hmm.
So whether they are wrong or right, it doesn't matter, because they're experiences. And when we learn that the conditioning, this is all part of conditioning, and when we see your real self, we actually see that this is a game. Because anger, frustration, sadness, self doubts, and how we feel about that, they are all different experiences.
Yeah.
So, if we eat chili, it's spicy. If we eat sugar, it's sweet. If we eat lemon, it's sour. There is no good and bad. They are independent,
Mhm.
different flavors. So happiness is an experience. Sadness is an experience. Worry is an experience. The problem is within conditioned self, because you want to feel fulfilled and you do everything that it takes to feel that fulfillment, we don't get it. Because fulfillment is a state and lack is a state. They are emotional states. And there is no formula that 100 million or 10 billion will change the state, because
No.
it's not a material shift that is required to feel fulfilled. It's an emotional shift. It's a shift in awareness. So when you start living from the true self or the real self, you automatically become whole and complete. And it doesn't mean we live the life we are living, but now we're not doing something to receive something in return to fulfill us. Instead, being part of that process gives us joy. So I'm still doing business, I'm still charging, but now I'm earning money for my necessities, but not to fulfill me. So even if that client says, sorry, I can't pay, I'm like, fine, because that doesn't fulfill me. I'm already fulfilled. So you become that ocean where no matter how much water someone takes away from you or how much they add to you, you are still the same ocean.
Yeah.
And that changes the life experience completely. We also learned that if I was operating from conditioning, the other person also operates from their conditioning. So they're also operating from lack. So when they get angry, it's not them getting angry. They want to feel good inside. And this is, there's a collective conditioning because it's coming through generations. Like I learned from my parents learned from their parents. There is no one to blame, but it was a process to identify who we really are. So, I've heard this many times, like physically we are evolved to the optimum level. We don't need any more material or physical evolution in this body. Now what can happen is we go inward. So instead of living life from the conditioned self, operating from lack and, go through the suffering, operate from wholeness and see the life as an experience. Our thoughts, our vibrations, our emotions, and our physical body it's creating an instrument for us to experience life. We don't need to be attached with the outcomes. And once we learn that from experience, life becomes beautiful.
It does. It so does. Everything you have said today has just been, most of it, some things are things that I've learned, things that I've read, things that I've talked about before, but you put it in a way of easy to understand and so empowered, because now I'm sitting here and I'm like, yes, Vicki, it's you're living from that state. You're filling your own cup. You are filling that now. And I
Yes.
coach that, I talk that, I teach, but to do it on a daily basis, and that old version, that conditioning that comes up, that keeps coming back, because like you said, you're still living the life. Like you're still working, you're still making money,
Yeah.
but you're doing it from a different place now.
Yes. Yes.
You're doing it
Now
from a
I'm doing
fulfilled.
it because doing that activity gives me so much joy
Mhm.
that I'm not waiting for any return to fulfill me. So the return is there, but not to fulfill.
No.
So it's a completely different experience. And what I also realized is, we learn about this. There's a lot of law of attraction practices, and there is
Yeah.
a neuroscience, and there is a breathing techniques, and all sorts of things. And what I realized, I studied quantum mechanics also quite a much in detail. And what I learned is that thought is the first thing that happens. So when we were child, we have all these four functions, but there is no data in there. So as we see the events, so we see the events physically, we name it. When we hear the name, it goes in our mind. So that's kind of forms the thought. And that thought and what we see, there is also emotional experience to it. So when we look at the energy, so the thought is like very small, very tiny waves, like very, very small waves. They take bigger form and creates the vibration, which is learned according to the conditioning.
Hmm.
And those vibrations create emotional experience. And those emotions make us act physically. So there are four layers where the energy transforms from the thought to the vibration to the emotion to the physical action. And
Okay.
all
Yeah.
four can interrupt each other. And the combination of four creates our nervous system. And the state of nervous system decides what reality we are going to experience. So the nervous system projects the you know the film in a
Hmm.
theater on the screen, which we then see through our five senses. And I learned really good example a few years ago, but I didn't understand what it meant. But now I can relate to that. I was told that in that example that if you went on a high street with a pen and paper for 15 minutes and notice how many red cars are passing,
Okay.
and in 15 minutes you come back and say nine red cars, and then if they ask how many black cars, I don't know. How many white cars? I don't know. And then I was like, yeah, but because you asked me to count red cars, I'm only going to focus on red cars. And that's
Mhm.
exactly the point. I didn't understand what it meant at that time, but now I can tell my nervous system says red car. So I'm only seeing red cars. And that nervous system state comes from my conditioning from my childhood. So when we have problems in our relationship, see, we operate from lack. So that lack becomes our red car. So no matter what our partner does, we only observe what he or she doesn't.
Doesn't do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to prove this theory, I also learned what gratitude does, because the gratitude actually changes from what you don't have and be grateful for what you have. So you're shifting your awareness from lack to what you have. And
Right.
that literally blew my head, because whatever we are experiencing as life is something we learned to experience. So knowing all these things, and okay, this is too much detailed information in a very short amount of time, but the more you will now go back and analyze it and apply it to our daily experiences, the stronger it becomes in our system. And when you understand
And
the process of how the thought is attached to the vibration, to the emotion, when you know the
right.
loop, and
That's
when
right.
you're
That
out
loop.
of the loop, it's easy to shift. See, a lot of books on a mindset only works on mind, but then there are three
Hmm.
other layers which are not affected, like sound healing. Sound healing has a
Hmm.
sound waves, and it interrupts the vibration. So when you are sad or
Yeah.
when you feel almost like lost in life, I've done that. I took for 3 months weekly sound healing sessions. And when they put the sound waves and the singing balls, I could feel
Yeah.
those waves in my body doing
Yes. Yes.
something. And
Yeah.
from that, the way I used to feel completely changed in just that 1 hour.
It's so true.
So the remedies which are out there, they're working in one of these four things. So they still work on conditioning. So those remedies are good because it changes you from negative experiences to positive experiences. But what
Hmm.
it doesn't do, it's not making you feel whole.
That's right.
It is still expecting you to chase fulfillment externally. So, for example, law of attraction, it teaches how you can manifest money. So you visualize and you feel and all sorts of
Yeah.
things, right? And let's say you figured out how that works. But once you manifest 10 million, you're not going to be done, right? Now you're going to manifest 100 million. So
Yeah.
before you were trying to chase money with physical, like non law of attraction way, now you know something else, but you're still chasing fulfillment externally. It might become easier for you, but it doesn't take away the main problem of
Mhm.
fulfillment.
No, it
But
doesn't.
now that when you learn to live from wholeness, now you actually know from experience what it means by letting go, because now you're no longer attached to the external outcome. So instead
Mhm.
of manifesting material success, now what you're manifesting is the experience. So, what
Yes.
is the experience of becoming a billionaire? Now, whether you become or not, it's not there to fulfill you. So now you're detached from the outcome, but you're
Yeah.
enjoying the process of becoming one. You're
That's
still
right.
creating, you're still doing what you were supposed to, but without any failure or any feelings of failure, or without worrying about it or stressing
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. And I think that that itself, without the worry and the stress and all of that built on top, because there's just layers and layers and layers of it. And I always say that too, those layers. But getting to the root of that, getting to the whole being underneath all of that. And that's what your book is all about. It's about taking us on that journey, right?
Yes.
To
Yes.
really stepping into everything that you've learned and everything that you have become because of, and how you see life now has changed everything for you.
Yes.
And it, like you said, and it isn't about the money, and it isn't about your family or what you have or your house or your anything or your business. It's about you,
Yeah.
your
And when you
wholeness.
realize who you truly are, you also realize what others truly are.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
changes the way you perceive the relationships. It's so
Absolutely.
different. Because when
Yes.
you're whole, let's say when you're with your partner, you enjoy those moments. But when your partner is absent, you don't doubt, you don't become insecure because you are operating from wholeness. You do not need
Yes.
your partner to complete you, but
No.
you are sharing your journey together. So there are two
Yes.
different things.
I love the way you said that. That is a beautiful way to say that, because it is, because and that's how I was raised. You need to, you get married, you have children, that's what you do. This is just part of the everything. And it's like, that's the one thing that I wish that I had told my children was, no, you don't need any of that. You need to be good with
Yeah.
you. You need to
Yeah.
find the wholeness within yourself before you go out and look for anything to
Yes.
to
Yes.
not complete you, to mirror you, or to follow with you, to share the journey. Because that is the that is my generation, right?
Absolutely.
And now,
Absolutely.
and I love to see the younger people, and they're not getting married right away. They're doing their thing. They're becoming who they choose to be first, and it's just a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a process we all go through.
It
And I
is
think
a
it's a
process.
process when we get to a certain point, our awareness shifts automatic.
Yeah.
And, as I said, I was not prepared to get divorced or separated because of my social conditioning. But over the years, that has even become normal in the very same community. Because it's only
Hmm.
who does the beginning is the challenge, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
not getting separated or not getting divorced was our normal at that time. Now,
Right.
in 15 years' time, getting divorced has become new normal.
Hmm.
And that's the thing, like as we were growing up, because everyone was doing that, we took it as this is normal. This is what
Right.
life is about.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
nobody's asking questions. So we couldn't even think of that question. Like, why do we have to
No.
do that? I mean, I remember as a child, I used to tell my dad, I was like, I wish I was any other animal than human. And he goes, why? He's like, look, they get time to eat. They get food automatically, right? They don't have to work. They don't have to go
Yeah.
to school. They don't have to do homework. And the birds can just fly all the time and they can just enjoy it. Why do I have to do this? So I had this something in me was questioning what had been coming for years
Mhm.
and for which my parents didn't really have a convincing reason to give me. For example, we do
No.
prayers to God, and I'm like, okay, who's the author? I wasn't when I was very small. I thought God must have given this. Like, if you do these prayers, I will come and fulfill your wishes. But as I grew in that prayer, there is a name of the author there, and I'm like, who's this person? Like, oh, he's the one who's wrote the prayer. I'm like, has
Right.
God given this? And he goes,
Yeah.
no. Like, how does God know that by praying from that I have to give? Is there a contract with I had these logical
Yeah.
questions which my
Yeah.
parents would shut me up because they didn't have answers. I mean,
That's right.
they didn't
Yeah.
even have the questions.
Hmm.
But now
Yeah.
I understand why there was a concept of God, what it really does to us, and how
Mm.
it really helps us overcoming situations. When we can't trust ourselves, there is a third party which is being portrayed as superpower, and it
Right.
just changes our belief system, isn't it? Because now you're handing over responsibility to God. So you're
Yes.
emotionally
Yeah.
connecting with something you think is superpower, which you created inside you, and now that is supporting you. So there is a scientific reason to it as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's true, because the grandkids will ask me a question and I'm like, ask your mom. Maybe not ask me, ask your mom. But it's so true. You know what? I could speak with you again and again and again. I really enjoy your view. I enjoy how you speak. And your book is amazing. It is definitely something that our listeners need to buy. They need to get this book, because honestly, you have put things that I have been learning about, kind of everything into one, and to make it very clear and to make it very easy to understand. So if people want to work with you, do you coach? talk? Do you teach this as well? I know you do talks. I know you do podcasts. I know you do interviews. But how else can people find you and work with you?
Sure. And as I said, originally it was just about me writing the book, and it got evolved to this 3-day immersive experience. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say when we read something, when we listen to something, it only gives us understanding. It sounds like a philosophy, or it sounds like, a theory.
Yep.
And I didn't want people to stop there. So I've created, combining all the journey I've been through, except except the psychedelic I did. So I don't want anyone to expect that in this 3-day. But those very simple techniques that you don't need 20 years of meditation, but that 3 days will actually take you to the journey to meet your true self, see your life in a flashback from true self, because you've lived that life becoming the conditioned self. Now you see it from there, and then release anything that is holding your nervous system, because there is a lot of other things as well, which is more advanced techniques, and how you can actually manifest experiences, and how you can, what is holding your manifestation, the stress and
Mm-hmm.
worries and tensions and all the negative emotions which are stored in your system. We need to release
Mm-hmm.
them. So once we do that, after the 3-day, there is no exercise, there is no work to be done to achieve anything, because whatever is the ultimatum, I would make them experience in those 3 days. And then what will happen is, when they are sad, this real self will auto trigger and see the event again from the real self, and will give you the guide like, oh, this is learned experience. So you need to
Mm-hmm.
be away from it and call it an experience. This is automatic process, because it's like once you learn how to ride a bicycle, you
Yep.
can never forget it. It always stays.
That's right.
So
Yep.
there is no practice for the bicycle. So you learn it, and the 3-day method is there, and I am just in a process of creating, which will be out in a couple of months, to create
Okay.
a detailed explanation about our experiences. And it's going
Okay.
into very detailed, but in very simple language. So anybody can understand. Anybody who is not following, like scientific things, the
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary is going to be something you can talk to your mate at the pub, right?
Amazing.
That
Amazing.
language, I'm going to create this with a lot of visuals to explain. And obviously, I'll share the details when it's out there, but people can go on the website called dhrstimethod.com, which has
Okay.
all the information about my talks, my 3-day experiences,
Yeah.
and everything wherever I'm sharing the information about Dhrasti Method.
And so you do know, everyone that's listening, um, everything will be in the show notes, and you can contact. And if you ever have any questions, you feel free to reach out, because I can always make sure that you get in touch with Pratiqk, because this honestly was just an amazing experience for me. I've had goosebumps pretty much the entire time you were talking. I saw myself in a lot of what you were saying. And again, the book has been something that I really, really have enjoyed, and I really appreciate that I got to read it. So it will be also in the show notes. So everything you need will be here. And I want to give you such a big thank you for everything that you've shared today, even the things that you've never shared before, because I do really appreciate that. You
Well,
being
thank you very
vulnerable and you
much.
being
And
honest.
yeah, thank you so
It
much
really
for
was.
having me. I'm so grateful. And I really like when someone is able to get something out which, others couldn't. And I'm not
Yes.
discrediting them, but I think it's something, as I said, everything happens at the right time, and you were meant to bring those experiences out of me today. And that
Yeah.
happened. And,
Which I'm
my
so
life purpose
happy.
is to go to people who's going through same struggles and hurdles, whether they say it out loud or not, but their inner self knows what they're going through, to
Mhm.
tell their inner self the permanent solution is right inside you. You just got to grab it. And I'm there to support in any way I can. So thank you for allowing me to be on the show, and, allow me to pass this message to your listeners. And I really appreciate that.
Thank
I'm
you.
very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you for being a part of our listening audience on The Art of Being Unstoppable. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and your power is limitless. If you love today's conversation, subscribe, share it with the women in your life, and leave a review to help more women discover their unstoppable selves. I'm Vicki McDougall, and I'll see you in the next episode, because your journey to unstoppable starts now.